Hey everybody, welcome back to Think Mindset Live. Randy Denha and I are looking forward to talking with Jordan Edwards, CEO of Mixology Clothing Company. He's a fashion and real estate entrepreneur, co-author of a great book called This Is It, which is available on Amazon and Audible, and the host of the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. I always have to pause when I say that. My dyslexia cannot pronounce it right. Jordan, welcome to the show. We're looking forward to diving in with you. You guys launched Mixology in 2009, and we sit here today, November 25th, a couple days before Black Friday and Thanksgiving, and in a COVID world, and and where a lot is virtual. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have today before Black Friday than you, who is a retail guru. So, how are you guys, I guess to kick things off, how are you preparing for Black Friday this year versus maybe any other year in the past?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me again on the show.
Yeah.
And Randy, pleasure to meet you. It's an incredibly difficult year to plan for. We've been battling and grinding every single day since March 16th. Just to be here. And, what I keep telling my team is just be ready to stick and move and get as uncomfortable as possible. And any plans you do have, they may have to be thrown out 7 p.m. for the next day. And that mentality is what's kept us winning and in a position to win this year, which every single day matters. If you go down a few bucks one day and up a few bucks the following day, the only way that we're going to finish this year profitably, I suspect, is going to be on December 31st at 4 p.m. We're going to be rallying the troops as hard as possible to make sure. So that's what it's been like every day. And we've been doing it with tools like Zoom and Slack, which for a retail business is difficult because you have a lot of associates on the floor. But the planning process is you do your absolute best to respond to the changes as they're happening in real time. And as they change, you just can't be afraid to change. So many people fall in love with their plans and their lists and their action plans. And I like to filter it all through my experiences. And I've made my team feel that way too, because it's not how everybody feels.
Yeah, and I know you're a big believer in team. I mean, I read obviously your bio and your background, and for being as young as you are, it's really impressive. But how do you motivate the team who may have their own ideas, especially some that have been there for so long? COVID has really changed the landscape in so many ways. But having run businesses as I have, sometimes you get outliers that might want to do things their own way. So how do you bring them back into the fold and make them realize that there's no I in team?
Yeah, it's a complex issue, and it's a learned trait. When I started running this business, it was out of necessity. It was an investment that my father had made in a single store that my sister had worked in her whole childhood. And Mixology was born out of the Great Recession. And then I really stepped up during Hurricane Sandy, which devastated our region. Mm-hmm. And my dad was thinking about pulling the plug on the investment in the business. It was a tiny investment at the time. And he asked me to spend a few days with our former business partners who retired about a year and a half ago. And when I got there, I found this money machine with zero business. It was just stores. And there was no office, there was no receiving, there was no bookkeeping. It was just buy clothes, sell clothes, buy clothes, sell clothes. And it's funny, that's my dad's philosophy on how to grow a great business, which is that sales drive the ship. And so when I came in, I had to add in, all my background is in real estate, and especially at that time was all in real estate. So I just added in best-in-class practices and bookkeeping and strategy and planning and all the things we did in the real estate business. And it had immediate success. We closed 3 stores, but we doubled the business in 6 months. And so my ego was in fuego. I was fighting with my partners. I was fighting with my father. I was fighting with everybody because I was 27 and I'm 35 now. I'm going to be 36 soon. I was 27 and I thought that I was the shit because I had saved the business. And I had to discover why in the wake of saving the business, I was so miserable, and so was everyone else. And so that led me on the path of team and discovery, and how to build a team, how to rally a team, empathy, ego. And about 150, 200 books later, by the time I was 30, I had developed the skills necessary, and I had all the battlefield training in order to run a business. And so the past 5.5 years since that time has been scaling and growing many businesses, not just mixology, but our real estate business and some of our other investments in small businesses that we've been starting. Now I've had a great, like as John mentioned, I've had fun starting all over again just by myself with the podcast, which is just me and a virtual assistant. So I'm like back in the trenches again on a little project, and it feels like it's addictive.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I know about being addicted to podcasting. That's for sure. Hey, let me ask you a question. You know, your story that you told, I appreciate the vulnerability of it. And I think a lot of times people get stuck in that space, right? Where they can't wake up and realize that maybe, you know, how to get out of their own way to grow a company, the people in it. And they think everything happens to them or everything happens for them. But when they finally wake up and realize things are happening through them, and they're this vessel to raise consciousness and to help other people become and reach their potential, that's an amazing moment. I know it was for me, and I'm sure Randy could point to his. So for the people that are stuck right now in that space, right? It's a dangerous space to be. It's a dangerous place to be stuck, especially this far into COVID. And the world has changed, and it's going to continue to change, even post-vaccine. I think the ripple effect of change will be decades. So what do you say to that person to get them unstuck?
Personally, for me, it was an instant switch when I was reading Money by Tony Robbins. I think that a good book does have the power to do that. I didn't recognize the behavior until someone made it really clear for me, and I said, "Oh, wait, I'm doing that." I think that I definitely am coachable and moldable, and always wanted to get better. Like I wanted success. I wanted to be a great entrepreneur. And so once you start reading about these great entrepreneurs and some of my favorite business books, I started seeing this theme and this path that all of these guys took. And I saw the failures. When I was growing up and I looked at all the most successful kids in school, it seemed so easy for them. It didn't ever seem like they failed. I failed tests all the time. They never missed homework, and it didn't make any sense to me. And so I always thought that people either had talent or they didn't have talent. And I wasn't a very talented student by any stretch, but I was very good at presentations and talking. And so when I learned that I could use those things to my ability, it helped me kind of get over that moment. So that was just my personal journey. But I always encourage people to read as the key. And if you can't, and I say to them, and if you can't read, you can listen to an audiobook. And if you can't listen to an audiobook, watch YouTube. And if you can't do YouTube, watch a podcast, because all the info is there. It's just waiting for you to digest it.
Yeah, it reminds me of a great, I know you're a practitioner of jiu-jitsu, and also your jiu-jitsu podcast. It reminds me of a great quote that I saw in a jiu-jitsu sweatshirt, that your laziness will cause you pain.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So, the inability for those that wish to be entrepreneurs or who are entrepreneurs that are unwilling to be malleable and flexible and understand, the environment around them, is going to cause them pain, especially if they don't want to learn. And that, I think, is so dangerous. But I want to ask you a question. So, I know, mixology was born, really seeded in 2002, then 2008, obviously the Great Recession, 2012, Hurricane Sandy, and you were officially running in when others are running out. And, Warren Buffett obviously had a great quote, be fearful when other people are greedy, and greedy when other people are fearful. What was your motivation in doing that? Was it simply to take over a business that the family had invested in, or was there more within Jordan to prove himself?
When I first came into the business to help, there was zero motivation of any grandeur for myself on that part. It was women's fashion. I have no background in women's fashion or clothing or apparel. It was another investment. We invest in a lot of businesses and in a lot of closely held businesses, small businesses. And so it was, even at that time in my mid-20s, when I was 5 or 6 years into my career, it wasn't abnormal for me to go in and spend a few days with an entrepreneur or a tenant and talk to them about business fundamentals. So when I came in, it wasn't about that. It became about that when I had success. But doubling down on risk, this is something I focus on a lot in my studying. I think about this. I research it. I try to find these moments. All my greatest successes have come in the wake of a major catastrophe. The 2008 recession, Hurricane Sandy, and now COVID. The last time I spoke to John, I described to him that COVID made our businesses stronger because it made us take immediate action on so many things that we had been holding back on. Or the team, we couldn't rally the team fast enough, and now they're just ready to rock. So we, instead of closing stores like 155,000 small businesses around the country have done, we opened 2 stores during COVID and have a third on the way right now. I've been hiring like a drunken sailor, so greedy with all the talent that's available. So we've been beefing up our teams. We've gotten talent through the door that we never would have been able to have access to. People who were furloughed from Macy's, really fantastic people in tech. And so we're adding these tools to the toolkit, and those things only happen when you double down. In my real estate business in 2008, when the world fell apart, we started buying multifamily properties in Manhattan in 2010, 11, and 12. Mm-hmm. At the time, and obviously looking back now, it's hard to imagine this, but it was hard to raise money. It was hard to get the bank's attention. They were paralyzed by fear. We looked like geniuses by 2017 and 2018 when we sold that last asset, and they were all, every property we bought was a grand slam. But there was so much fear at that time. And so I have to give my dad credit for this. I've embraced his contrarian view, and, we're small businessmen. We're not big businessmen, but I like to say that I take the strategies. This is very well documented if you go read like Robert Greene, 33 Strategies of War, or any great business book. If you read Sam Zell's autobiography, Steven Schwartzman's autobiography, these guys, this is what they talk about. And I tell young entrepreneurs all the time, the best of the best leave their playbook behind for you. They want you to be successful. They want to build other people up. So
yeah, I love that. I love how you're mentioning all these great books, because it's always fascinated me. I really didn't start reading until I was about 18 years old, once I started college. And I remember thinking, for 1995 or 995, I just got hundreds of years of knowledge and something that will catapult my growth. So I'm a big fan of books, and I appreciate every book that you mentioned. I want to talk about the buying habits today, and how you're reaching your target client and how you're getting them, whether it's in the store or to your website to shop, and just that whole experience, and for the shopper today.
The key for mixology was that you had me, who knew absolutely nothing about fashion and clothing, and the customer. And then you had my sister, who was the customer and knew nothing about business. And both of us fighting for what we knew to be right on the opposite side and meeting in the middle. So I always call that the balance between the fashion business, the commerce, and the fashion and the creative. I was fanatic about investing. I started investing in our business in 2011. I was one of Shopify's first 25,000 customers. Now they have well over 1 million customers, probably closer to 2 million now. We were one of their first 100 enterprise customers. And for a small business at that time in 2011 to have been investing the way that we were, millions of dollars, into an e-commerce business was To say avant-garde would be an overstatement. Why do I say that? Because as we sit here in 2020, 10 of our closest competitors, those are family businesses with 10 or more stores in the Northeast, still don't have a website or e-commerce operation. And they're just trying to figure it out at the wake of COVID. So you started to see websites popping up, but I said to myself, they're like 8 years behind us. They don't have a team. They don't have fulfillment center. They don't have distribution. They don't have an omni-channel approach. And so my direct answer to your question is, it's kind of like Joseph going to Egypt and telling Pharaoh, there's going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. If you started thinking about this at the beginning of the famine, you're in a bad shape. We were ready. We had a very solid foundation. And when the government forced us to shut down, we just flipped the switch and we became a fully e-commerce operation overnight. And that was the benefit for us. So the direct answer to your question is an absolute. You have to be investing in your business. You have to be leaving more in your business than you're taking out. You can't be living off your business. I sometimes tell new entrepreneurs, you're going to have to make a decision. Is my kid going to camp, or am I investing in a piece of technology? And as you both know, having found success in making that investment pays for the camp.
Yeah.
That's right. So online, I remember going to New York City about 7 or 8 years ago, and there's a great store that I loved there called Kit and Ace. It's obviously Kit and Ace. The sister Lululemon. So there was a brick and mortar store there, and I remember going in and loved it because I could touch the merchandise, I could try on the merchandise, and I left with merchandise. Fast forward, I then read that Kit and Ace is closing all brick and mortar stores and they're going to only online.
Yeah.
Well, since that time, a lot of companies did the same thing. Yeah. But yet, taking the contrarian view, you went in and actually opened up brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Well, last week we talked to people that had a lot of moxie. Some would argue you have a lot of moxie.
This is such a deep conversation, but
I ask those questions, Jordan.
Yeah. This is a deep philosophical business question, but let's just answer it the most simple way possible. Is Amazon opening hundreds and thousands of stores or closing thousands of stores? Is Casper opening stores? Is Peloton opening stores? Is Warby Parker opening stores? Why are these direct-to-consumer businesses that are online only opening stores all over the country? I was in the Boca Raton Mall yesterday. I'm down in Florida visiting my parents. Why is Peloton, that sells bikes online, have a store? My wife and I went in because we wanted to see the new model. We said, okay, we want to order it. They said, okay, it's at least a 9-week back order. How can they afford to pay for a store when you can't even buy the product? You nailed it. It's the touching, it's the feeling, and more importantly, it's the expectation. The biggest and best brands have created an expectation of being able to touch and feel and get, most importantly, serviced properly. Companies that are closing down and going online only, it's a slow, painful death. Kit and Ace, as a venture-backed business, I'll give you another one. There's a company called Outdoor Voices. Mickey Drexler, longtime Gap, J. Crew, guru. He's on the board. This girl was the belle of the ball. They opened 9 stores. They ratcheted up 100 million in sales. He said, how does a company go from 0 to 100 million in 2 or 3 years? And then you find out they raised 50 million and fired the CEO and founder. So is that a good story or a bad story? Mm-hmm. It sounds like a terrible story to me. If you gave me 50 million in cash, I could guarantee you I could get to 100 million in sales because that's only a 2 times return on your ad spend. If we don't get at least a 6 times return on our ad spend, we think we're doing a bad job. Why are we able to get it? It's because even though we sell in 50 states, 90% of our online customers live within 5 miles of the store. So are we an e-commerce business, or are we just a business that sells online and in store, an omni-channel business? Mm-hmm. I'm wearing a Lululemon shirt, like you just said, Lululemon before. I'm a huge Lululemon consumer, but I usually pre-shop the site and then walk in and make the purchase in the store. And then if it's something I like, I'll reorder it again. Mm-hmm. But I've learned my lesson too many times. Ordering one thing, it sucks. And then I don't know about YouTube, but I'm always too lazy to return it.
Yeah, always.
You know, it's like, I'm not going to return it. It just sits until I donate it. So
yeah,
I love that omni-channel experience, and that really is the key. And I'll leave you with one last comment on this subject, because it's so powerful. And I'm very open with sharing this because I love helping small businesses. Like, that was my motivation for writing a book and doing these podcasts. The lifetime value of our average online only customer is about $100. The average lifetime value of an in-store customer is about 1,000. So 10 times. 10x. But the average lifetime value of an omni-channel customer, someone who shops online and in-store, is about 2,000. So my competitor, who either is only online or only in-store, if there's only online, they're selling razor thin margins at volume, at scale. And if they're only in store, they're only half as profitable as I am. So that's why I tell as many small businesses how to listen, like, you have to make these investments, and they've never been easier, because Shopify, like I said, they have 1 million customers on there now.
Yeah, I love everything that you mentioned, also because a lot of times people aren't thinking about, how much it costs to get a client, what a client is worth, and what the lifetime value of a client is. It's really surprising how many people are not diving into that. Let me ask you a question, Jordan. The next couple of years, as we start to see, retail in general was affected in a significant way, and I think it will continue to be, ebb and flow in different ways. Fast forward into a crystal ball for me over the next 2 or 3 years. What does the retail world look like?
I think that it's getting a little bit worse before it's getting a little bit better. But I'm internal optimist. So I think that even while we're in a forest fire right now, there's no doubt it's burning down a lot of players who listen, Kevin O'Leary said this the other day. He said, if there's a second round of stimulus, small businesses who are going to be out of business shouldn't get it. And that's a devastating thing to tell someone who put their life savings into a small business. And I have a lot of tenants like this. But his free market economy thinking is such that these guys were going out of business anyway. They were running their businesses so poorly that at the first gust of wind, it blew them over. This is not how I feel, by the way. I think we need to help small businesses that were forced to shut down. But he makes a good point. Who's going to still be here in 3 years? And I really do think that we're in a historic time of business creation with companies like Shopify and influencers who are selling tons of goods. Macy's and the malls are the ones that are really taking the hits. That's not my direct competition. My direct competition is my competitors, and then anything bonehead that the big guys do to try to they give it away. But I think about, the John Dwoskin t-shirt line. If he sells 500 or 1,000 t-shirts on his website, how many John Dwoskins are out there? How many times do you multiply that out? How many Shopify stores are created? Whose business is that eating into? So I'm sure that the both of you have seen thousands of fitness influencers that are now like almost celebrities. What are they? All they do is online training classes now. If you were a fitness guy at the local Equinox and you didn't have an Instagram account and you didn't have a following, now you're out of business. But on the flip side of that, there's a fashion influencer with 1 million followers, and every time she turns on her phone, she's got 20,000 engaged fans, and she has her own clothing line. So I see a lot of that kind of happening. And if you want a good company to kind of track, that's at the beginning and the super early stages of this, it's Kate Hudson's Fabletics. Mm-hmm. If you ever go check out her company, it's owned by a seriously tech-forward fashion company. So she didn't build this to scale. They're using, they're using her name. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they partner with celebrities and influencers. Another one of their clients is Rihanna, her Fenty line. So Savage and Fenty, that's a lingerie partnership. And so they're opening stores in malls right now. And they're doing billions of dollars a year with a B. And so is Gap competing against Jordan Edwards, or is Gap competing against a company like that? that has Rihanna and Demi Lovato and Fabletics. And all of a sudden, these major celebrities are kind of the new Macy's.
Yeah.
There are losers and winners, obviously, in every business. Losers that come to mind today, the big one is the cruise line, the cruise industry. And a winner is like Zoom, or StreamYard. What winner do you see out there right now for that young budding entrepreneur who's looking to do something different? What industry do you like?
Anything in security, I think is a very safe bet. If I could do it all over again, I would spend a ton of my time on being an engineer. I think that having an ability to code is going to be paramount to knowing how to type. I type like a demon. It was part of my education, and I grew up with a keyboard. But I still see some old people typing like this, and I know that they were left behind slightly. I think that education is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Courses, classes, production, video. If you don't want to think big and you want to have just an amazing career, shooting video, editing video, making content. John, you have a podcast, you have blogs, I don't know how much content you're physically making, but I saw Gary Vee talk about that you want to make 60 pieces of content off everything you film and make. I think that's a really nice, almost like if you wanted to be, it's like the new age plumber.
Yeah.
And then that leads me to my next thing that I push people into, young people in. I think that we're going to need millions of tradesmen in this country. One business that I just invested in is an HVAC company. They're trying to disrupt HVAC. As a landlord, I have about 1 million square feet of property, and I have 30 properties in 10 states. And if I told you the amount of money I spend a year fixing air conditioning systems and trying to find labor and skilled labor who knows how to fix these systems, it's crazy. It's a dying art. So if you are someone who wants to be a little contrarian, trades, I think, are going to be more powerful than ever. Building with your hands, building with lumber. I think that those skills are going to be at a far greater premium than white collar skills like accounting and, pushing paper.
I love it. This has been like a PhD, like a master's class today. I love what you had to say.
Awesome.
We're going to go into a quick speed round, Jordan, but I just want to make one comment. I believe typing is so important that I actually, during this 3-week stay at home, I told my kids they're practicing typing. So I told them, if you get to 70 words a minute with 90% accuracy, you get $75, and then you get to 100, you get $100. So my daughter got to 75 words, and now she's on her way to get to 100 because I think it's so important. My dad in high school told me if you pay attention in any class, pay attention in typing. We had mandatory 2 semesters.
Yeah.
It's important
my grandma Norma, who passed away a few years ago, she used to do the same thing with me and used to bribe me in a nice Jewish grandma way to make sure that I was learning how to type and do my dinosaur flashcards. And but interestingly, before we just move on from that, Elon Musk was talking about this exact thing. He said that the way that we interface with machines is antiquated, that we type and use our thumbs. And he's working on that company Neuralink, which I'm keeping my eye on because he's just a total disruptor. And anyway.
It's great, man. All right, quick speed round. I know you mentioned a couple of books, but what's your all-time favorite book and why?
The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. It's a must-read for every human. Child chess prodigy, black belt martial artist in multiple disciplines. And it just will go to show you the talent versus work mindset and how to learn.
Did you watch The Queen's Gambit?
No.
Have you watched it, Randy?
I have not.
It is on Netflix. It's the best show I've ever watched. The Queen's Gambit.
Oh,
it's
wow.
It's six or seven shows. It's a small miniseries, and it is you'll be addicted from the first 10 minutes. And it's unbelievable. But based on just how you describe that guy, it's about basically a child prodigy chess player. And it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Gambit. So speaking of books, Jordan, if you had to write a book about yourself, what would its title be?
Well, it was called This Is It. That was my first book. And my second book that I'm in the process of writing is called Business Jiu-Jitsu. And it's about as core to who I am as anything else, is that the principles that govern life and business and martial arts are so critical for finding success. And I want as many people to know about that as possible, and about the struggle, and that anybody can do it. Truly anybody that's willing to put their mind to it and just get past the fact that they're not good at it. People have been recently telling me that I seem to be good at things. I promise you that I was not that person, and yeah, I found business success, and I'm starting to find some kind of jujitsu success, even though I'm always going to suck compared to someone else. Once you get that there's someone above you that's always going to be better, it just allows you to kind of run.
Yeah. Just remember, hard work always beats talent if talent doesn't work hard.
That's right.
That's great. Jordan, tell everybody how they can connect with you, shop mixology, get to your podcast, contact you, whatever contact information you want to give.
Please support my business and all small businesses this holiday season. Shop mixology.com. We're fighting for profitability every single day. We're in the money. Help keep us alive. We have 225 amazing, mostly women, 98% women. And whether or not we crossed that threshold, it was an incredible year. And then my website is jordanedwards.com. And then you can find all the other stuff on there. If you like to do jujitsu and you're in business, call me.
I love it. I love it.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time, your energy, your insight, your depth, and really just not only everything that you do on a regular basis for your team, which I know you do a lot to continually inspire them, but being selfless with the information and knowledge that you gave today, because you didn't hold back, and it will help so many people. So I thank you for just your time and just everything that you shared on every level of today. Randy, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, I think, while the trees might be burning, you brought the perspective of, the forest. And, you've obviously, crafted your trade and are experiencing, great success. And I wish you all the best. And, I look forward to having you on this podcast again. Maybe when you open up the Taekwondo, podcast, or maybe Krav Maga. But, I look forward to great things from you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. John, always great to see you. Randy, great to meet you. And I hope I see you guys again soon.
All right, cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, all of you.
Always fun. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Have a great couple days of business and rest of the year. And Randy, always fun.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.